Yo, what's good? What's good? GM. How's everybody doing? It's been a little while since I've ran a live stream. Figured it was about fucking time. How's everybody doing? On this Wednesday afternoon, just checking around a few things and I'll get underway. Oh. So yeah, it's been I don't know, maybe like what's it been, like 2 weeks almost? Apologies about that. I had some stuff in real life that I had to take care of, as well I've also over the last several weeks gone back to the drawing board on really working on perfecting entry fractals and entries for trades, as well as targets, so I can try and extract as much as possible out of every move and to give them the highest probability possible when entering those trades. And that's been coming along really well. I've been, I'm in a couple small group chats with some buddies that are perps focused. As you all know, I've sort of shifted the focus of these streams over the last couple months away from on-chain new launch market and into the perps realm. Back to my roots, which is where I started off trading crypto years back, sort of came full circle. And in returning to my roots, I was a little bit rusty, so I wanted to get better at entries and risk reward and targets and stuff like that. Like the analysis has remained solid, especially on high time frame, but it was really all about how do I get into trades with at the best possible areas with the highest probability. And yes, we've gone over some of those for a while now, even with on-chain stuff. But with perps, it's a lot more mechanical. It's a lot more as much as we rely on the system, even for on-chain, like with perps, it's even more of a system. Like the setup presents itself, you take the setup, but you need that setup to be there. Otherwise, you're just sort of entering blind, at least for the way that I trade. And you want it to be with probabilities on your side so you can have the best hit rate possible. So that's really what I've gone back to the drawing board over the last few weeks in practicing. I did back testing. I was using this back testing software for a while that I spoke about, as well as putting it into practice in live trades. I did the back testing. I really only did the back testing maybe for, about 5 days. And then after that, it just sort of becomes, like it is, like I was saying, it's all repetitive, right? So it just became repetitive upon repetitive. And it was like, okay, well, the framework is there. So that got pretty tired quick. So it's, I've just been live trading, putting these entry fractals and setups into play. And it's been going pretty well. I do apologize. Sorry, I just need to check. My wife is messaging me. I just need to check what's going on there. Excuse me. Okay. Let me get the formalities out of the way, as we usually do at the beginning of these streams. I'm a little bit rusty, so I got to get back into the swing of things. I am 0xRapture, and this is Astrology for Men, coffee, charts, and a cigarette. I will chart any shitcoin with a pulse, and I still do that. If you guys have any requests for on-chain shitters, please feel free to drop them in the chat as a request, because I don't mind looking at those tokens as well. There's been a lot more activity on chain recently, a lot more sustained runners. And I know that my on-chain friends have been crushing it in that realm. When when I try to focus on something, I need to like go all in. And so my focus has been 100% on perps. And the times that I've shifted some focus towards on chain, I have had zero attention span for it and really no real enthusiasm about it. Like I'm just so over researching the millionth this or the building a narrative, spinning a narrative and a thesis for that, blah, blah, blah. I just love the purity of fucking charts. I'm a chart guy, you know, and perps is the best way to express that because the it's a lot more controlled and a much more it's a pace that aligns with my life much more where I'm at now at this stage in life than being at the front end of the on-chain trenches. So it's been a welcome change. And in order for me to get to a level where of mastery, which is my ultimate pursuit in perps, I had to be 100% focused on that, 100% all in. I can't be diverting my focus between trying to research new launches and staying on top of my game and trying to perfect my perps, my trading. So I've really shifted the majority of my focus, pretty much all of my focus to that. But I do still chart shitters on chain shitters. So if you have any requests, always, of course, feel free to drop them into the chat and I will see what I can do about looking at those. I want to give a big shout out to the sponsors of this show, The Daily Edge. TheDailyEdge.com/subscribe, which is a free daily newsletter written by my good friend, the one, the only on-chain wizard. It's full of actionable intel, insights, and information about the market from the day before. I would highly recommend you go and subscribe to that. Like I said, it's a free newsletter. There's always alpha in that newsletter as well. A big shout out to ChainEDGE, ChainEDGE.io, which is an on-chain analytics platform tracking the top 0.01% of DEX traders by profitability. And the Daily Edge and ChainEDGE go hand in hand. They are sister companies, and you can extract alpha from both of those places. There are links in the About section below, or in the description of the video, or if you're joining from X, which I believe a lot of people tend to do these days, you can go to my my page, my account, and follow through, and you can find some links through there. And don't forget to join the Daily Edge 0xRapture's Thoughts, the Telegram channel, where I put out the majority of my thoughts throughout the day. I use it like a journal, and there's always a lot going on in there. And you can find the various links. You just got to look around. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to the channel wherever you are joining from, whether that be on YouTube, on Twitch, or on X. Now that I've got that shit out of the way, why don't we pull up my screen? Let's see here. Where is it? There we go. What do we have here? The Bitcoin weekly chart. Well, impressive move we've had. You know, we put in that weekly SFP off the range lows, and now we're up into the weekly range highs. There's always a temptation. Not a temptation, but like the natural human instinct is when prices are down here, you get overly bearish and everyone's like, oh, the sky is falling, everything's going to fall out. And then when you get up here, people get overly bullish. It's a real skill you have to develop, that when prices are at the lows, you want to be looking for reasons to get bullish and to get long, which we talked about many times in the Telegram channel. I spoke about that many times, and we were getting bullish down here. Well, now we're up here, and for the last little while, I've been talking about I'm in this region looking for potential shorts. Because we are up into the weekly supply zone, it's a bearish weekly range, and a logical place for price to stall out and potentially pull back, and ideally pull back to form a higher low before higher prices. But we don't really know what's going to happen there yet. Drilling down into lower time frames, you guys know that I love a daily SFP. Well, we've put in a lot of SFPs at this level. Now, it hasn't really resulted in downside yet, but we've been putting in a lot of SFPs. For those that don't know, an SFP is a swing fail pattern, which is price trying to get above the level and refusing to close above the level. Now, I know I'm zooming right the fuck in here, and you might be like, oh, that's a little bit insane. I know, but really the level is the level, right? And look, SFP, like failure to close above that level. Doesn't have to be the end of the world. And I don't, I'm generally feeling bullish about things, but we do have to keep in mind that this is a logical area for a sell-off to occur. We do have weekly demand down here, which also winds up with a daily breaker, H12 as well. It would make sense to me that we see some sort of pullback down into this area for a higher low. But up here, like I'm not trying to long here. Like Bitcoin is up, almost 30% off the lows. You want to, like, the meat of that move is already taken, right? Like, there's that good phrase, you either are the meat. Sorry, there's like, what's the phrase? It's you either see the meat or you are the meat. Well, this meat has already been seen, right? So like, it's tough to want to get long here, especially with leverage. I think any meaningful pullback, though, I'd be looking for a setup. But at the moment, I am looking for a short trigger setup. One thing of note that is worth being aware of is the ETF inflows have been quite impressive recently. They were down for a while and down only. Well, they've recently shot back up. And this whole cycle has been ETF flows driven, right? Like, this is ETF. Then ETF started selling off here. This was ETF. Well, now they're rebidding here. So we don't want to, we need to be cautious not to get overly bearish. Yes, we're up into weekly, 3-day, daily supply in this region, but we have to be cautious not to get too bearish about things. I think a pullback is healthy and it adds fuel to go higher. But like I outlined in the Daily Edge Telegram channel, we put in those SFPs, right? Especially on daily time frame, significant. I think what I'm looking for is if H4 closes below this level, I'd be looking to short that ideally down into here. Like you get a close down below here. I'd be looking for a retest up into here, into supply, wherever that ends up being. And to try and short it down into here. And then I would wait to see what happens down here, whether we get, one of those low time frame fractals to get long again. The whole idea about the system is to try and catch the next move. It's not to try and predict 2, 3, 4, 5 moves out in time. It's to try and catch the next move. And with the system we use high time frame for our area of interest and low time frame for where we're looking for setup triggers. And this is a culmination of studying from traders that came before me. Shout out Trader Main, massive influence on the way I trade. Shout out Big Chuds. Shout out Crypto Cred. Shout out Tom Dante. And several others who have been a fairly significant influence on the way that I trade and that I learned a lot from. Shout out Trader XO, brilliant range trader. You know, guys that I learned from over the course of a 2-year period a few years back. And now that I'm back deeply in perps, I've been going back and brushing up on learning further. You're always in the pursuit of trying to get a little bit better, trying to add a little bit more to your edge. So I've been taking the time and spending significant amount of time of going back to the study board. I mean, if you want to take this seriously, it's what you need to do, right? But the idea is, you know, I put in all those hours and then I can relay to you guys in a shorter time frame so that if you don't necessarily have all those hours to spend, if you've got a day job or other commitments in life, IRL, that I can help distill that down so that you can progress a little bit faster than spending the years and hours that it takes every day to learn all this stuff. So I always want to give a big shout out to the traders that I've learned from and the ones that have come before that I've learned so much from. And, you know, the guys around me too, you know, everyone that's been with me for a while, people that have been watching my streams for a while will know that I'm not an indicator guy. I like price action. I like clean charts. But some of my friends are really into moving averages and RSI and, you know, some more diagonal levels and stuff like that, which I'm mostly a horizontals guy, but watching these guys in action and learning from them and then seeing the confluence around certain levels. At the end of the day, it's all just different ways of expressing a similar idea, right? And it's always good to bounce ideas off of others, especially when you get to a place where you're getting a lot more confident in your own analysis, where you can bounce ideas off your peers. Because it gives you a little bit of, it allows you to think critically about your own analysis, right? If you're unable to explain why you're entering a trade or what your thesis is behind it or what your reasoning is behind it, that's, you know, probably not a great reason to enter a trade. But if you can outline it for people and then they can outline their reasoning and you come together and you're like, oh, well, yeah, across, you know, my system, across your system, we're all looking at the same level. It's a good confluence. Not that you need it. Like once you get confident in your own system, you don't need that confluence, but it is nice to have buddies to chat with about it. Just checking in the chat. Munar, what's good, buddy? GM. Backo, so blessed to have so much content from so many good traders. I agree. And I apologize if I butchered your name. Backo, fuck. I'm not even going to try. But thank you for joining the stream. It is a blessing that there is a lot of good content, great content from good traders out there. And I mean, some of these guys, like when I first got into perps trading, going back to end of 2021, early 2022, I consumed a fuck ton of content and just put it all into practice. I just kept studying and studying and studying and learning and practicing, which is what you have to do, right? Trading is just repetitions. It's all about putting in the reps. It's great to be able to look at a chart and analyze it, but at the end of the day, that's just the small part of it, right? The main part about trading is actually putting your money on the line based off of your thesis and whether that plays out or not. And then you make adjustments to that, right? And you try to refine your edge. And that just takes repetition, right? And that's why recently I really wanted to refine entry triggers, entry setups, entry fractals, because I found that my analysis was spot on, but I was always sort of, not always, but I was using the setups not as targeted as they should be on low time frame. And so that's really what I worked on for the last, I'd say, like 3 weeks. Really went back to the drawing board and spent a lot of fucking time on that. And the trades have been reflecting that. So back to the Bitcoin chart here. Sorry, I've been a bit of a ramble. I haven't streamed in a while, and I have to get shit out of my mouth. I'm not a huge talker in real life. I don't know. Maybe my wife might disagree with that, but I haven't talked to you guys in a while, and it feels good to be streaming. I actually really do enjoy this aspect. I like this streaming. I enjoy streaming. It's a bit of like a selfish pursuit because it does help me perfect my own trading by talking it through. But I do it because I enjoy streaming and helping others out. So it's like a win-win, right? JJ, what's good, buddy? GM. Back host, and I do apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm having problems with triggers too. Does your YouTube have anything? So the triggers are what I've been working on for the last several weeks, and I haven't streamed about them much because I wanted to get them to a place that they were a lot cleaner and more reliable. And they're getting pretty damn good. So I will sort of go over some of that today. I'm not going to stream too long because it has been a while, but I just wanted to jump on and say hello to everybody and dust off, get the dust off, knock the dust off so that I can get back into doing these, doing them 2 to 3 times a week again. Because, the last couple of weeks I haven't done one, and that's shitty. But I did really just want to take that time to perfect shit for myself. Like I said, I had to be full on focused, and taking that time. And I'm talking about like every day for the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's been hours of target practice, hours of tweaking the setups, hours of reflection, hours of back testing, like a lot of hours. Like I'm talking like, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 hours a day. And that might sound crazy, but like I take this shit seriously, right? And that's what you have to do if you do want to do it as a full-time job. And the beauty about crypto markets is there's so many fucking assets to trade that there's usually a setup taking place somewhere. Now, I tend to keep the majority of my analysis on Bitcoin just because after you sit with Bitcoin for a while and trade Bitcoin for a while, no, it's not going to give you the largest returns, but the setups are just so clean. And you sort of learn how it trades, and you just get a feel for it. Now, the whole point is you take that analysis and you reflect your bias on altcoins because they're going to give you more upside, whether that's in a short or a long. But the whole purpose of altcoins is a levered way to capture Bitcoin upside or downside, whether you're longing or shorting, right? But to capture that beta move. So, interesting morning we had today, right? Like, yes, we got the next SFP yesterday. Then there was a situation about what happened this morning. I can't even remember. There's so much news shit. Like, oh, I'm so tired of like the headline trading that I'm trying to not do it so much. I'm trying to just trade the chart, and I think that's always the best way to go about it. Like, try to trade off of headlines is you're going to be a step behind unless you're super reactive to it. Sorry, give me 1 second. I think I heard the door knock, but I don't think anyone's here. Let me just check. Apologies about that. So yes, we had that sort of news-driven moment this morning. I think it had to do with Trump saying something like the stock market he inherited was Biden's. Anyways, blah, blah, blah. Fuck all that noise, right? Well, we've been putting in these daily SFPs. A bit of a recovery this morning, but I do think, 4-hour close below the Monday mid-range. I think we're going to visit the Monday low. Ideally, not ideally, but what I would like as a trigger to short is a 4-hour close below both the H4 range low and the Monday low. And I'd be looking for an underside tag into supply, wherever that ends up being, as a short down into here. Last week, we had gotten into a short based off of H1. But over here, right? I outlined this area here. I said, we get an H1 close below here. I'm looking to short that. Well, it worked out for a while. Came back up. I believe I closed it because there was a H12 close above the level. And I said, you know what? This level is an important high time frame level. I would rather see the 3-day close. And after having that H12 close above, I was like, there's a chance this wants to stab up higher. Now, it hasn't actually taken out that high. And so that short, that initial short setup that I outlined in the Telegram channel is still valid, right? Like, why was this a short setup? So you're talking about entry fractals and setups. Well, let me delete this one more time. What we had was, because I was basing it off H12, was there was an H12 SFP that took out a high within an area of supply. This is weekly supply, daily supply, 3-day supply. Like, it's a significant area of supply. And what I was looking for was an H1 lower low as a trigger, which we got when we closed below here, right? These boxes are really magical things. That sounded funny. But a box is a magical thing on a chart. It can serve two purposes. Let me just move this out of the way for a second. These are really wonderful relayers of information and encode a lot of data if you know how to use them. On a high time frame, so your H12s, your dailies, your weeklies, your monthlies, they are areas of support and resistance, supply and demand, where you're looking to do business, right? So, say this is a daily chart. And they generally, well, not generally, they outline the extremities of the range. Oh, that thing's in the way. Right? Range high. Range low. And actually, I should bring this down to here. There we go. On a high time frame, there are areas where you're looking to do business. So you have your demand, your supply, range high, range low. Those are the most basic ways to use these boxes, right? They're just generally there to remind yourself when price reaches that level, you're looking to do something. You're looking for some sort of reaction that gets you a setup to either enter a trade or close off a trade that you've already been in. They're the most basic ways to use the boxes, but they're very important because on high time frame, if you know where you're looking to do business, you don't need to fuck around with all this bullshit in the middle, right? Like, this is where people chop themselves up, is trying to play this middle of the range, right? Right? Like, you have top half, bottom half. Generally, for a long, you want to be doing your business down. And you can even break this into quarters. or into thirds, right? Like you want to be doing your business for a long in the bottom third, your business for a short in the top third of a defined range. Now, depending whether that range is bullish or bearish, the probability of what you're looking for occurring in a supply or demand is going to go up. So if the range is bullish, if you're in a high time frame bullish range, well, then looking for a long setup in demand is going to be better probability than looking for a short setup in supply. Doesn't mean that we can't look for those short setups in supply. It just means that you have to be aware that you really want your entry to be tight because there's a chance that it just continues going up. So you want to put yourself in a position where your loss is very low, right? Like position sizing, stop placement, all that stuff matters a lot. But we have our demand and supply. Now, when you drill down into lower time frame and you're looking for an entry, right? Like this is daily. Well, now let's drill down. And we're say this is a bearish range and we're into supply. Well, on a low time frame, these boxes include a lot of valuable information. And what you're using them for is, okay, we've done our high time frame. So let's bring this over here. Let's just imagine. Okay, this is this, okay? But now we're drilling into low time frame. So now over here, we're on low time frame. This was daily. So let's say this is H4 for that setup that I'm talking about on Bitcoin where I'm looking for an H4 lower low. So what you do is you had a daily SFP here. But on that, H4 could be doing price action like this, right? Whatever version of that is, however the chart wants to play out. But now, all of a sudden, what you have is you have an H4 lower low, right? Like these are just assume these are candle closes, not just wicks, right? It needs to be a wick or a close, sorry. So you had price that was going up. This here, sorry, let's move this down a bit so it can be more accurate. This here is this SFP of this daily level, okay? All right. So say it took out a range high on daily, SFPs, closes back below. That's this here. Well, now you've got this area on H4 where you had a low that, oh, I don't want that below that. Oh, excuse me. You had this low. Let's set the SFP. Actually, we probably want that to look like that. There we go. We had this low that put in the daily SFP. It's going to be any version. Like every chart's going to be different. And you need to take the price action as it comes. And it's if this, then that. If that, then this. Well, now you've broken this low. You've got an H4 lower low. What this box does is it gives you the information of, okay, you were waiting for that daily close, the SFP. This was your high of the SFP. Now price is broken below. Now you've got this H4 breaker. And what this box gives you information-wise is the level that you're waiting to break with a close below, as well as the entry and your stop placement. Right? So now, if that was an SFP, this is this, right? Because we've adjusted the box to align with the SFP. This is this taking place above that level? So here, let's just do this. This is the daily level. This is this level here. So now what you have is a market structure shift on lower time frames, signaling that price wants to go lower. And this is a very common entry fractal. It can take place on many different time frames, like we talk about, like fractals occur on every time frame. It's just when you're trying to align the lower time frames with the higher time frame, right? Well, this can take place on H1, M15. It just depends on what time frame you're trading off of. And so when you have these lower time frame boxes that you've outlined, you know, okay, you had the if this, daily SFP'd, then that. H4 broke below. Now I'm looking to short any retest into here, stop up here, and looking to trade that down potentially to a high time frame area of demand, right? So then over here, you're like, now we're back on daily. This is played out. You know, probably some version of something like this. Into demand. You don't want to just be like, catching a knife goes both ways, right? Like in a sell-off, there's catching a knife, which is, generally not the best strategy unless that's something that you're really good at. Same thing going up. You don't want to short and jump in front of a moving train. You want to wait for alignment. So that's why these boxes include so much information. And if we jump back over here, like I was talking about, on H12, we had that SFP at the level, and then we had an H1 lower low, which we were in the short for a while. I'm not in the short currently. Given that the level is a higher time frame, it's a 3-day level into weekly supply, I want confirmation of a higher time frame trend shift, which is why I adjusted my analysis and I exited the H1 position and I moved into an H4. And like I said, what I'm waiting for is an H4 lower low, close below this level. This is the H4 swing low, range high. It's a compressing H4 range. If you get an H4 close below here, I think it's a pretty solid trigger to short supply. Hopefully that makes sense. But you're just looking for different versions of fractals. Like if you want another way to trade this, it's just an H4 range, right? Get rid of this. This is an H12 level. You don't need to worry about that right now, but it's just an H4 range, right? Like you had the swing low that created the high, creating a higher high. So there's your bullish H4 range. Well, traded to the top, and you had an SFP down here, traded back close to the top, but it hasn't done that yet. Maybe we get one more sweep up here, but say H4 gets up here and you get a close back below, then you're looking to take it as a short back down to here. Like deviation of ranges are really wonderful strategies for intraday. Like if you want to take day scalps, like say you're someone that likes to be trading frequently and you just don't have the patience to wait for the higher time frame setups, or when you're waiting for the high time frame setup, you're also wanting to trade in the meantime. Well, trading these ranges like this is a wonderful way to do that. And what you should do is you get your fib tool, set it up into thirds, right? So you have your high, low equilibrium. Once you've defined your range, like you need to make sure your range is on point, like you can do it in H1 as well. Now on these lower time frames, the range is defined as I usually define a range, which is like the swing low, the swing high that creates a higher high, or the swing high to swing low that creates a lower low. depending on if it's a bullish or bearish range. On H1, it's a little bit different. And I've been doing a lot of work improving in that area as well, because I do like to be in intraday trades and as well as taking the high time frame swings. And so placement of the range on something like an H1, it's a little bit more fluid because you're watching interaction at levels. Like we had this range before, right? And this is pretty narrow. Like say this hadn't taken place yet. Well, you had an H1 range that got to the highs, deviated above it, closed back within, tagged it, sold off. Then you got down to the low, closed below, reclaimed. You can long on the reclaim, right? This is just if you want to be taking much faster intraday scalps. But the range isn't as clearly defined as they are with the high time frame system that we use. But if you're looking to trade like low time frame scalping, you have to be a lot more fluid with the way your range is. Like, do we say, okay, this was the range? And well, yes, that acted as a swing point. And there is also down here, like, but why this was attractive was like this had potential to keep going, but as soon as it reclaimed it, it was an easy long to the top. But that's something I'm still working on to get a little bit better with the faster intraday scalps. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on that right now because that takes a lot more nuance. Always be cheating says, this is so helpful. Thank you. Well, you're very welcome. And appreciate you joining the stream. It's also helpful for me because, like I said, for the last few weeks, I've been really went back to the drawing board on improving my low time frame triggers, as well as trying to improve on some scalp setups. And I'll get more into those in future streams, like the lower time frame range scalps, because deviations of ranges, and then once they reclaim, are really good triggers because your risk is really well defined. And generally, once a range reclaims like that on lower time frames, you're going to see mean reversion to the other end of the range. But for now, BTC H4 is just chopping in this range. And for me personally, there's no trade here at the moment. Like, yes, could this have been a trade here? Yeah, but then what are you trying to capture there, right? Like, you didn't get a proper trigger, even on H1, right? Like, and now it's meeting this area here for supply as resistance. So I think for me, what I'd like to see is that close below and look to short the underside. Or if you get a close above here and can hold sustainably, you long a retest. But from here, after this move, this massive move off the lows, it just doesn't seem like high reward. Let's take a look at, so Solana was actually an interesting one today because Solana actually got that H4 lower low. There it is right there. But you need to be aware of your time frames, right? Because on H12, this could also just be putting in an H12 SFP. And it tagged H12 demand. Actually, it front ran it by a little bit. Front ran it a little bit. So like that setup that we're looking for on Bitcoin with that H4 lower low, Solana's done that. The only difference is on Bitcoin, I guess that is an H12 low. Yeah, on Bitcoin, the H4 level is not an H12 level. Yes, you have some levels there that it could be trying to SFP on H12, but on Solana, this H4 level is actually the H12 swing low. So I'd much rather see this as an H12 close below rather than just trying to front run this, because if it closes as an H12 SFP here, I give higher weighting to that than the H4. Whereas on Bitcoin, if you get that H4 close below here, whenever that happens, if that happens, I feel much more confident in that as a short. I would watch this close on Solana though. You know, it took out a lot of lows here on H12. All these levels got swept. If this manages to close above, you probably have a decent setup to trade that back to here and potentially beyond, right? Like, we're talking about those range trades, right? A minute ago. And this is why on lower time frame, like to define the range, it's not as cut and dry. There's a little bit of nuance on it when you're doing that, because, you know, yes, I could put this up here and it does use it as contact points. But when you take a look around at it and you really look at it, that to me is a much better defined range between there and there. And this is just a massive deviation. Close back below, shorted down to the bottom, gets below, reclaims. Now there it failed it. But I think if it reclaims this, then you have a long up to at least there and maybe back to the top. Like, yes, you could say now, okay, this is now the low. And there's been a lot of interaction with that level. It had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 touches before it broke through. So either this is going to find supply here and nuke down and give you that H12 close below, or H12 is going to close as an SFP and holds this level, and you're looking to trade it back up. I do actually think I kind of like this level a little bit more, but you have to play around with that, right? Like doing that low time frame scalping, you have to figure out what works for you and make adjustments, and don't be so static with it, right? Like you have to be fluid with what the chart's telling you, and you have to look for areas where there's been a lot of touch points. And then you're just essentially trading from one end of the range to the other. And you don't want to have a bias doing that, right? Like you don't want to go into it, like say you recognize, okay, price is trading in this range right now. The last thing you want to do is when price gets to the top of the range, even if it closes above, is to start moonboying it and, you know, being like, oh, we're going to keep running. No, you have to play it as a range until proven otherwise. Now, this has been choppy as fuck, but as you can see, if you allow price to unfold for a little while and then you outline where visually you see the range has been making the most sense. You know, you let a little bit of price action unfold and then you just trade it as a range and you try not to hold any bias, right? Then you do that until it doesn't work anymore. So in Solana, I would watch this H12, see what happens here. This is a pretty promising reaction here. I just, you know, this needs to figure out what it wants to do. Bitcoin needs to figure out where it wants to go. I'll give you a good outline, a good short that I took the other day. Not ICP, sorry. And like I said earlier, or not earlier, but in the Daily Edge Telegram channel, I don't like to post too many setups on alts because there's a lot of variables involved. And I want you guys to sort of get in the habit of understanding the reasoning behind the system and how to use the system, and then go and find those setups on your own charts. Now, if you go in the Astrology for Men Telegram group, I'd be more open to sharing alt setups there, and you guys can, ask questions and whatnot. I just haven't been posting a lot of charts as I've been in this deep revamp and expanding my knowledge over the last several weeks. I'll get in a better habit of posting more since I've gotten to a place where I'm a lot more confident that the setups are working. For these lower time fractals. But here was a short that I took yesterday on GOAT. I was looking on weekly. I was like, okay, we're into weekly supply. H12 has come up into that weekly supply. Put it in SFP. Drilled down to H1. Outlined the low that created that SFP on H1. Outlined the breaker, as Trader Man would call them, breaker zones. And I was in a short. As soon as it closed below here, I was short from here. And I added through this region because I was pretty confident it was going to go down. And I'll show that to you in real time what that was, right? Like, okay, H12, put in SFP within weekly supply, right? We mark out the high time frame area so that we know when price gets there, we're looking for an if this, then that scenario. Well, the if this was H12 SFP'd within the weekly supply. The then that was H1, put in a lower low when it closed below the box. And like I was talking about before, on low time frame, these boxes encode a lot of information for you. They tell you where you want to see the lower low, the close below, the bottom of the box. They tell you where you want to enter within the box, or potentially even just the edge of the box. And they tell you where your stop goes above the wick of that 12-hour SFP. And then if you're on lower, if you're monitoring in real time, you can say, okay, well, within the area that I'm looking for my entry, I just got SFPs there on low time frame. As well, an extra layer, the Monday range is a strategy that we love. Price closed back within the Monday range that it had set and underside tagged right at that level where it SFP'd. You layer all these things on top of each other to give yourself confidence that your setup has a high probability to unfold. And now we got that sell-off. It's been a bit choppy here. It's come down in the mid-range, but I'm still looking for it to take out the Monday low. And those are those sort of fractals on low time frames that you're looking for to give yourself confidence in your setup. You could even just look at this strictly from a Monday range perspective, right? Forget everything else. The Monday range was set. Price deviated the high, closed back within, underside retested, boom, right? I do much prefer the primary analysis, which is this stuff. But if it aligns with a secondary strategy, being the Monday range, you kind of have to take that setup, right? Because if you don't, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because if a setup like that hits and you don't take it and it goes the way that you wanted, the next time you take it, or the next time the setup hits and you take it and it doesn't go the way you wanted, it's going to skew up your mental game, right? Because you're going to be looking at it like, well, I didn't take it. I took it this time and I got stopped out and blah, blah, blah. It went against me. Well, that's just going to fuck up your mental game, right? Like this is all, trading is mostly psychology, right? It's like, how do you put your capital on the line if you know that there's a chance that you're going to lose some of it? Well, you have to define your risk, right? If you go into the trade with defined risk, you say, okay, on any given trade, let's just say you keep it static. On any given trade, I'm willing to lose 1%, 2%, maybe 3% of my portfolio. If you go into it with that mindset and you understand stop placement and position sizing, like this is a big thing that I've also been, for the last, I'd say 2 months, focused on a lot, is like position sizing. Because when I was first trading perps a couple of years back, I had no fucking clue how to do that properly. Like, let me just be upfront. Like, I'm no expert. I'm, maybe a little bit further along in my journey of doing this than the people joining me on these streams, but I'm still very much trying to improve every day. Now, being a few steps ahead in the journey means that I've got more mileage on my trading and I've got more confidence in my trading and I know what I might be looking for, but I'm still trying to improve a little bit every day. I think if you're not trying to improve daily, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Because trading is a game of edge, and edge can erode very rapidly. And it's really easy to start spiraling and taking trades that you don't really know why you're taking them, because you had a losing trade and you're just trying to make it back, or you're trying to revenge trade, or you're feeling FOMO, you're seeing things start to moon and you're like, fuck, I got to be in something. And then it's how often do you do that? Excuse me. How often do you see us trade, like prices start to take off and you're like, fuck, I got to get in. And as soon as you hit the buy button, shit starts to go against you. And because you don't understand where you're invalidated, or it was just a FOMO buy, as soon as price goes against you, every tick down, you're like, fuck, 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 until you either exit the position at a loss, or you had some random number as a stop just on a whim, not based on any technical reason. And then you close out or you get stopped out and you lose money. Oh, apologies. Another 4-hour candle close. By the way, I would recommend set up some alarms. Like I have every single 4-hour close, I have an alarm that goes off. That way I know to check in on charts on those intervals, especially since, as I mentioned earlier, like what I like about perps over on-chain new launches is the pace. You can outline your setups and you can do some other stuff for a while and then check back in on them and not have to be constantly checking in on the shit coins that you've bought and wondering if they've gone to zero or not. And none of all that research. And anyways, I'm not going to get into that again, but I have really gotten to a place in my life where doing that just doesn't make sense to me anymore. What was I rambling on about? Anyways, yeah. So it's just about showing up every day and trying to improve a little bit and never thinking that you've got it all figured out. Because as soon as you think that you've got it all figured out, the market's going to hand it to you. Right. I was talking about position sizing, stop placement, understanding where you're invalidated. Back in 2021, early 2022, I had no fucking clue about any of that. And I was just dialing up the leverage and had no idea really about where I was invalidated and what position sizing meant. I just thought, well, I see these guys on the timelines cranking it up to 100x leverage and blah, 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 and hitting these wins. I just got to go throw $50 in on 100x leverage. And if it does, don't fucking do that. Seriously. Learn about why your trade is invalidated, where your trade is invalidated, how much of a position size you can put on based off of where your stop placement is as a percentage of your overall portfolio that you're comfortable with losing the trade. And when you go into it with that mindset, the fear of the trade going against you means so much less. Like, yeah, it still sucks to lose money, but that's just part of the game, right? There's no such thing as 100% hit rate. And truthfully, to be profitable, depending on how much RR you're striving for in your trades, like say you're striving for a 2R trade, meaning for every dollar of capital you put up at risk, you stand to gain $2 if the trade hits your target. Well, under a scenario like that, you only need something like 40% win rate. And the higher up your RR goes, the higher up your R goes, the lower win rate you need. Now, the ultimate goal is to have as high of a hit rate as possible, which is why the low time frame fractals matter so much about entries. Sorry, that feels like I've been ranting a little bit or like just talking out loud, but this is like, it's not like I talk to my wife about this stuff, right? Like I'm not talking to her about, position sizing and where I got to place my stop loss. And like I said, like I've been really engrossed in improving myself over the last 3 weeks. Because when did we switch from analyzing the on-chain shitters to a perps focused market? It must have been end of February, right? On-chain dried right the fuck up after we had that big Bitcoin sell-off. It wasn't much to do, but I was recently back streaming and I wanted to stream about stuff. I wanted to keep perfecting. I wanted to keep improving. And the perps were calling my name. And I've come full circle back to trading perps. And in doing so, I've had to get some of that dust off and work on improving the areas where I need improvement. And it's just a journey. But hopefully by doing these streams, especially as I've been learning along the way and improving along the way, it's been helping you guys out. Right? Like I've spent the hours. I continue to spend the hours. It's not so much about watching other guys for their analysis, because I think I've gotten to a level where I'm confident in my analysis and I don't want to cloud my own judgment. But it's about the little tweaks that help with execution. Because I'm not looking to guys to be like, okay, what's your setup on this token? Where do you think it's going to go? Like, no, it's not about that. I'm very much focused on taking all those little in-between steps that improve my personal execution when I'm trading based off of my own analysis. I may look at other people's analysis or talk to friends about what they think, but end of the day, it's my own analysis that I'm interested in, and giving myself any little tweaks so that I can improve my edge within those areas so that the trades, the trades end up working out in my favor more often than not. So that's what I've been on a pursuit of mastery. And I like to go all in. Like when I'm all in on something, when I really enjoy something or I'm really interested in something, it's all I fucking think about. So yeah, we had the setup on GOAT. It's late now. Like, yeah, I'm not telling you about this trade now. I'm just trying to show you about how you can look for those low time frame fractals, right? And the stuff that I've been working on. Now, not a guarantee that it's going to go to the Monday low, but we had that deviation above the Monday high, underside retest, SFP'd within the H1 breaker. It's sort of holding on to the Monday mid-range right now. Maybe we'll get some sort of other SFP around here on H1 that'll show us that it wants to go down. If not, then I may consider cutting soon. But it's been a good trade. But this is what you want to be looking for. Does anyone have a chart that they want me to look at real quick, and we can just see if there's a fractal playing out there? I can start from a fresh naked chart, and we can go in and we can take a look. I mean, a lot of tokens, a lot of altcoins over the last couple of days have put in some of that PA you want to be seeing. Let's just pick. Well, let's take a look at curve because it's so strong today. Like, let's. Oof. Okay. Let's go H12. So, bullish H12 range. There was a short up there, right? Let's just forget that this is taking place so far. Let's just zoom over to here and be like, okay, on H12 we got an SFP here. This was the breaker, down move for the up. Talk about how those boxes encode a lot of information. You're looking for a close below. Once it does that, enter off the box or look for PA within the box, but this was pretty fast moving. But look at that. You got the close below, tagged it on the next candle, stop above, ride it out to demand. You know, you look at it, you're like, well, can it really be as simple as that? I mean, it kind of is, right? Like the system is simple. It's not easy. The not easy part is pulling the trigger in the moment. And the not easy part is monitoring the charts so that you can find the ones with those setups taking place. But that's why you do, like I was talking about a little while ago, you set your alarms on like the 4-hour candle closes, because the 4 hours also align with the daily. They also aligns with the H12. So if you're staying on top of it that way, and you see that playing out, well, you know, you had an entry there, an entry there. And so you just entered just off of the close below. Like, and you say you just set a limit order off the edge. 10% move, you target high time frame supply or high time frame demand. So now let's flip this around. H12 came into demand. Was there a setup here? Now, unfortunately for this, the setup it wasn't great, because that similar fractal, right? The move that tagged it, well, you're looking for a flip of this, right? Like, that's not so useful to you, right? Like as a setup, stop below here, enter up here, like that's not so useful. So it's not always going to work out. And you have to try and look for other ways that you can take the trade. Okay, so we had an H1 SFP into a high time frame demand. Probably go down to lower time frames. So you had that breaker play out on M15. There was just no entry. It didn't give you that entry. So this would have been a tough one to play. Because you could say, okay, well, there was a fair value gap here, but on M15, are you looking for a fair value gap entry? Like it gave it right there, right? But like, you're probably not drilling down that low time frame to see that take place. So this would have been a tough one to get into unless you were just like, okay, I saw an H1 SFP into demand. Now, if you were just looking at it from the Monday's range, excuse me, even then it was hard because that candle is what set the Monday low. And you didn't know that that was going to be the Monday low yet, right? So while this candle is printing all of this through here, you still don't know that this is the Monday low until the Monday daily candle closes. So that one, you know, it was a little bit tough because you couldn't base a trade just off of that. But those are the types of things that you're looking for. Looking into the chat. Sui. Yeah, I can look at Sui, and Tau looks like it's sweet. I can look at Tau as well. Let's take a look at Sui. This is really strong here, though. Curve is looking great. Sui. Okay. I mean, Sui looks like it's taking out a lot of lows down here. Look at that Monday range low reclaim. It's a little late to this move now, but as soon as it reclaimed the Monday low, stop below this deviation, enter off the Monday low, your target is back up to here. Right? Stop below here. As soon as it reclaimed up here, your target is back up to here. Ooh, those are ugly drawings. I don't usually use that tool. But, you know, that's a beautiful Monday range low reclaim. Good pointing that out, guys. It feels a little bit late to be trying to jump on this now because you have to place your stop all the way down here. But say it comes back down here, like say over the next couple hour candles, it comes back down close to this area. You want to get in as close to the Monday range low as possible when you put your stop there, right? You could even just enter off that. If it comes down and tags there, enter off that, stop below there, target up here. Looking promising with these H12. Like, look how many lows it took out here, right? Grabbed all that liquidity. H4 even closed within the Monday range low. Yeah, I mean, this looks like it wants to go back to the highs. Good catch, guys. But yeah, say you get something like, you know, comes up into here, and then comes back down in there. You know, this, you know, it could take hours to play out, right? Who knows how that ends up looking, right? Because look how many hours this took. Right, these are hourly candles. This was from Monday to now Wednesday. So I wouldn't FOMO chase this. I would look for another pullback towards this area. And look at how much, like, this is a lot to chop through, right? So it's natural for it to find some resistance here and to pull back. Well, if it comes back towards the Monday low, put your stop below there, enter somewhere around here. An early warning sign that you may not want to hold it to your hard stop is if it starts getting a lot of closes below here. Does that make sense? Always BGA. Good name. Good shot on that one, though. It does look good. You say. So someone said Tau. Do I have a Binance perp for Tau? There we go. I mean, same thing, right? Like, you want a super reliable strategy to use throughout the week. The Monday range is pretty fucking solid, right? You had your Monday range set. You never got a range high play, but you had a close below the mid range, a short. Well, now it's come and reclaimed the Monday low. So it's a similar thing, right? Like, you want to get as close to the Monday low as possible because this is already a significant bounce off the low, right? 3%, it's not too bad. But stop below here, you're targeting the Monday range high. What does this look like on H12? I mean, same thing, right? Here's your H12 range. H12 demand. Let's take a look higher time frame. What's going on over here? So we are into an area of weekly supply. This is supply. So you do need to be aware about that. But maybe, I mean, I'd love to long down here. I don't know if that's going to happen, but you had a weekly breaker. Your ideal long is there, but on a scalping situation, you know, H12 looks like it's going to hold that. For an intraday scalp, though, you had your Monday range low reclaim. You're looking to trade that back to the Monday high. Now, it's not always going to work out, right? Like, you could enter a Monday range low reclaim and then price just fucking nukes on you, but that's why you know where your stop is. And sometimes you get a Monday range low where it's just an SFP on hourly. I would look for this on hourly or H4. M15 is probably a little bit too much noise and not as high of a probability because, you know, you get M15 closes and it could just come back down. But you had your H1 close back within the range. Excuse me. Doesn't have to hold, but your risk is defined. Put your stop here. Try and enter as close to the Monday range low as possible. Trade it back to the Monday high. I'm going to add this to, excuse me. Sometimes you can click here and add to a watch list. Other times you can't, and I haven't figured out why that is. Oh, and it doesn't even have the thing here. Why? No, not tie. Tau. Excuse me. Why does it not have the thing here that I can? Trading View is being funny. I'm going to add this to this list. I'm going to add this to a different list, though. There we go. Does that make sense to you guys who are following along? Oh, the streaming aggregator platform says there's 232 people watching. I think that's just the Twitter algo, though. It does tend to inflate the view numbers. But if there are 232 of you watching, welcome, welcome. Appreciate each and every one of you being here. I think we're going to wrap it up, though. It's been almost an hour and a half. On future streams, we'll dive deeper into the low time frame setup triggers. I outlined those quite a bit. So if you want to rewatch some of this stuff and go back to where I was doing those drawings, this stuff over here, where'd it go? Here, right? Right, high time frame, low time frame. This is just this on low time frame. I'll do a post about this because this is pretty, that's kind of a banger post, right? Like about the boxes and what they're used, like how and why they're used. But if you can visualize this, this is your daily, right? This is daily. Or, you know, H12. Or even weekly is your high time frames. And over here, this is your H4. Wow, this is atrocious. I use a trackpad and not a, like, I don't have a pen or a mouse or anything like that. I have a trackpad. So just, I'm not retarded. This is not how I write. You got your H1. Oh my God, that was awful. Oh, let's fix that. H1 or your M15. Right? High time frame, low time frame. High time frame, you're marking out your areas where you want to do business. Low time frame, you're zooming in to look for the fractal that gets you into the trade. Hopefully that makes sense. It's really what I've been working on a lot. Because it's one thing to say, okay, I've had a high time frame SFP of a level. Like people that have been following me for a while know that I really like a daily SFP or an H4 SFP or an H12 SFP. Really like those high time frame SFPs, but that in and of itself is not always a reason to enter a trade. It can be, and sometimes you might get that SFP and then shit just nukes and you never get that low time frame fractal, right? Which is why you have to be adaptable and look for those if this then that scenarios. But to improve the hit rate of the trade going in your favor, to improve the probabilities, you want low time frame alignment. And I've always understood that, but I've wanted to tweak and improve and improve and improve. You know, one of the differences, the main differences between on-chain new launch shitters and perps is like with a new launch, you can be, you know, getting a 10x, 100x. Versus in trading perps, you know, your percent moves are much smaller. Now, yes, you define your risk, so you're much more comfortable putting up a larger amount of capital because it's really hard to define risk on chain for new launches, right? Like you're essentially saying, well, this is either zero or hero. Like, yes, you can cut, but using like stop losses and stuff like that on chain it's not great. And how often does a coin go to zero and then fucking magically recover? So you're generally just better off assuming that whatever you put into a new launch, that money's gone. And if it 10x's, you're fucking thrilled. And if it goes to zero, it is what it is. Chalk it up part of the game. Well, with perps, you can define your risk and you can be much more controlled with that, which means you can put up more risk per trade because you know how much in the out, like from the outset, how much you stand to lose if the trade goes against you. But while in doing that, you really want to know where the fuck you're invalidated, why you're invalidated, and how to get on board that train with the best risk reward possible and the highest R so that you can capture as much of that. Because you're not going to get that fucking, I mean, you can, depending on the coin and whatever. Like 4 coin off the lows was, what was that, like a 400% move or something like that. So like you can get those 4 or 5 whatever X's in perps. But the name of the game for the most part is trying to catch the next move. So if you can improve this, your hit rate goes up, your profitability goes up, and your downside is capped a lot more. Which is why it's been so important for me to work on improving that area. Because for a while, like my entries were just, okay, I got my SFP, let's take it. And I understood, I was looking, understood, okay, I'm looking for a low time frame setup. But a lot of the time, the low time frame setup for me was just, okay, we got an H4 SFP within the high time frame area, or we got an H1 SFP within the high time frame area. That's fine and all, but it's still a 50-50 on that. Like, yes, if you're in your high time frame area, the probability, even off of a simple trigger like that, is higher. But if you get those moments where you're realigning the low time frame with the high time frame, your probability is a lot higher. So that's what I've been working on personally to improve, and been doing a lot better since doing that. Because when you do that, say you just get an H1 SFP in a high time frame area, it's still a little bit of FOMO, right? Like, you're taking the trade and where is your risk really defined and all that stuff. Whereas this is way more patient. You're like, okay, I know what I'm looking for, where I'm looking for it, and generally when I'm looking for that to take place. So you can be way more methodical about it. And you don't feel any FOMO, or at least you feel reduced FOMO. And you don't feel so bad if you miss a trade, because you see how often those setups play out if you're in the areas where you want to be doing business. Okay, everyone. I think that's enough for me today. An hour and a half, we're circling around here. Good first stream back. I'm going to make sure that I do get back into the 2 to 3 a week, especially now that I've got a good grasp on what I've been focused on training myself for the last several weeks. Good grasp on the improvements I've been making. And we'll go over more of those sort of range bound setups as well. Still something I'm tweaking a little bit more for those low time frame scalps. I don't really like trading on M15, but you can do the setups on M15 for those low time frame intraday scalps. I more prefer H1 at a minimum, but you can do it on M15, and I'll do a little bit more practice on that so that I can relay how I would approach that as well for those more fluid ranges that we were talking about earlier in the stream. I mean, decent looking candle here on Bitcoin. You didn't, it didn't take out any lows here on daily. On H12, you've taken out this, but I don't really think that's, really think that's anything special for me, at least. Maybe maybe you get a close above, and then it's a different scenario, and we have to evaluate differently. But for now, I'm still, what I would love is take out last week's high, give me some sort of H12 SFP up here, or give me the H4 lower low, close below here. Then I have setups to frame a trade around, or give me a close above, and then I can frame a different trade. But for now, in this area here, this fucking Chop City, there's nothing to take a trade based off of. Like, yes, there was this here, but like, you had a move up that instantly got sold down. Like, it's not. This is when you talk about chop. and don't chop yourself up, this is exactly what the fuck that is. And what makes it even worse if you're chopping yourself up in something like this, especially if you're trying to long, is knowing that you're into high time frame supply. So why long here? Why long here? Right? I'd much rather long from here, or at the very least somewhere here, right? Or give me a close below the Monday range and recapture. Like, there's different ways we can approach this. There's just nothing to do here right now, at least on Bitcoin. Let's take one more look at Solana before we, okay, so that's looking promising as a range, Monday range low recline. Now it's come up into this weekly level, right? This is the weekly swing high that we SFP'd, right? Was that an SFP last week at the close, or did it close above? Okay, so you had a weekly close above there, but it's starting to act as resistance now. You don't really want to see it lose that weekly level, but if this gives you that SFP, it's reclaimed the Monday low. I think you get another tag into this. You can probably trade it back to the Monday high. Well, and you can see here, it reclaimed that low on the hourly, tested it again, and now it's moving up. It's these little nuances, right? Like, if you want to be taking intraday scalps, I'd much prefer taking the high time frame swings. And it's hard to sort of post about scalps because they happen so quickly that by the time you get your entry and stuff like that and you enter the trade, like, you don't really want to be posting to people about that they try and follow you on the trade, because they usually play out much quicker. But I will outline the strategies to do this more in future streams so that you guys can do it yourself, because at the end of the day, I can't trade for you. I can't pull the trigger for you. I can give you tools to do that yourself. And that's ultimately what's going to allow you to pay yourself for the rest of your life. Like, these are skills you can use in any market, in any type of environment, any instrument. The setups work. You just have to adapt to the nuances of the different environments, but you can take it with you for the rest of your life, which is why I'm always trying to improve and refine my edge. Because I don't really see myself doing anything else. Like, I enjoy the shit out of this. I fucking love trading. I love doing what I do. So if I can make myself that much better, a little bit better, every time I'm approaching a trade, and that you get new information from the trade and what works and what doesn't, it's always for the better. I think, yeah, if Solana gives you a retest down into here, you probably long that back to the Monday high, right? Like, pulls back. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions before we sign off? Because if you don't, I want to say a big thank you to everyone that joined on this stream. Appreciate each and every one of you. Where's my mouse? What am I doing? I'm going to go up here. Is there new comments? Yeah. Backhoe says, thank you. Always be cheating says, yes. Yeah, thank you. No problem, guys. All right. Well, on that note, I am 0xRapture. This is Astrology for Men, coffee, charts, and a cigarette. I want to give a shout out to the sponsors of the show, The Daily Edge, thedailyedge.com/subscribe, and ChainEDGE.io. I'd like to remind you that if you enjoy the show, to please follow and subscribe wherever you are joining from, whether that be on YouTube, whether that be on Twitch, or whether that be directly on X. Appreciate all of the support. Because like I said, I like streaming. I enjoy doing this. And the next one will be a little bit smoother. After a couple weeks off, I'm always a little bit rusty, but I get back into the groove. And then I start to pick up my pace and speak a little bit faster and not so slow. I want to say thank you to everyone who joined the show. And don't forget, you can find links in the About section below or in the description to the channel or from my X page. And also, if you are looking for a Perps platform to trade on and you like trading with while maintaining your own custody, if you prefer to trade on a DEX, my preferred DEX Perps platform is Vertex. There is a link floating around somewhere in the description for the video or in the About section. It's a wonderful platform. I've been using it actually when I was first, back 2 years ago. I was using it then. And they've evolved a lot, and I really enjoy the platform. There are, of course, other DEX platforms out there like Hyperliquid, which I do use as well. I just prefer Vertex a little bit more. So if you're looking for a new Perps platform to trade on, use my fucking ref link. Also, if you are still trading on-chain new launches, there is a ref link somewhere for my Bullx Neo. Although I'm not really shilling that much, more about educating. And we are more focused on the Perps game here lately. So go and check out Vertex. Just going to check the comments real quick before we go. JJ says, thanks. Appreciate you, buddy. One of the strongest soldiers. Always showing up. Appreciate you a lot. Thank you very much, Mr. Jaunty Jaguar, and everyone else that joined. Once again, I am 0xRapture. This has been Astrology for Men, coffee, charts, and a cigarette. And I will catch up with you guys next time. We'll exit on some music.